Hi guys. So I am attempting to do something that's a little bit different than I haven't done before. I have got the screen pointed toward myself and I am now filming myself. Dad's kind of busy on some other projects and I've got this sign that I want to do, so I'm going to attempt to film the whole thing myself. The cool thing is I've got a screen that I can turn toward myself so I can see what I'm filming. So if this experiment doesn't work, it doesn't matter because you'll never see it. So I won't put anything on the channel that isn't as good as we can do for our limited knowledge. So anyway, so this is going to be kind of groundbreaking in several different areas. Number one, the aspect of me filming myself doing a project. The other aspect is this is a sign that I'm going to show and do that I've never really done quite this type before. I'm going to do an operation with a router that I don't know whether we've ever actually put on video before. So I want to do that. And then another big aspect is this sign that I'm making is for a big YouTube channel. And that's I'm kind of going out on a limb, and it's somewhat risky that I'm making this sign at all. But I'll get into that later on when you find out who the sign is for, and it may be a YouTube channel that you guys have heard of before. So, but anyway, so there's a lot of kind of brand new, groundbreaking stuff for me. Not like it's gonna change the world or anything, but it's kind of different for what we normally do. So I'm actually outside of our studio. I'm actually filming with the tripod on top of our big table saw right now, which you guys have seen kind of bits and pieces of this. If you go way back to our early videos, you may have seen glimpses of out here. But this is actually the most logical place for me to do it. So don't mind all the junk in the background. Don't pay attention to any of that stuff. So hopefully that this will come out quality enough that that you guys will get something out of it. So this is just kind of the intro. And you'll see me, because I'm not going to edit it out. I'll be getting up and adjusting the camera and moving it and turning it on and off and that kind of stuff. So hope that doesn't bother anybody. But again, if this experiment doesn't work out, you guys will never see it. And honestly, if this sign doesn't work out, you guys will never see it anyway. But hopefully it will, and I'll archive this, kind of hold on to it to find out whether I'm going to be successful at reaching this YouTube channel, and they like the sign I'm making them. So anyway, we will move on to the next section of this video where I'm actually doing a router operation that you may have never seen me do before. So hang on, we'll be right back with you. Or not we, I guess I'll be right back with you. Hold on. Alright guys, so I decided to kind of take the camera in my hand and take it off the tripod. I wanted you guys kind of see what I'm working with here. Here's the sign that I'm going to be doing. It is approximately 20 inches wide, tall, and somewhere around 5 foot long, a little bit short after it'll be cut to length. So the outside shape of the sign is going to be where those black lines are. That's my next operation, is actually shape the sign. So down the top and the bottom of the sign is just saw cut. I've just got to get those shapes on the ends, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. But I wanted to kind of go over one other thing with you too. Originally, this board was wider when I glued it up. This is 2-inch redwood. And so when I glued it up, it was much wider than this, and I was going to center the pattern. This is a vinyl pattern that I'm going to use. Then I'm going to use layout letters that I cut with my laser on the inside there. That's why we have a big open space, and that'll be later on after I get the shape and this pattern cut in there. But what happened was, in surfacing the board, let me zoom in on that little knot right there. in surfacing of the board, that knot gave loose and actually ended up being a hole right in the middle of the sign. And so I had to kind of figure out where my letters were going to be. Now normally that wouldn't be a huge thing because it's off center, and if I was making it all outset, then I would putty that up and I would make it in the middle of the background. However, the letters on this are going to be inset because I want to show as much of that redwood as I can. So I had to actually refigure out, recalculate, and do a lot of figuring on exactly where my layout letters are going to set in this board, and then move that pattern accordingly. Like if you look at this end, the original center of the board is where I wanted that point, and you can see that, let's see. You see that line right there. See how that point doesn't match up with that big line because I had to drop it down about an inch in order so that when the layout letters were set in the middle of this square, one of the letters is actually going to be right on top of that knot, so it'll be black. So anyway, just so you guys know, I go through this stuff too. Things happen and I have to recalculate and figure this stuff out. It's just that I have a little bit more experience at it than maybe some of you do, but it happens to the best of us. That was a nice tight knot until I surfaced it with my hand planer, and then it just decided to break loose. And I didn't want to, I don't want that just filled with putty in the middle of a nice redwood ocean there, basically. So I had to recalculate and figure out how to make my layout letters fit over the top of that knot so that when it's carved, I'll putty it and it'll be all black. Anyway, it was one of those deals that added an extra hour to the project, but you know, no big deal. We've got a little wind coming up, so I'm hoping that my microphone is still working out well. So anyway, I just wanted you guys to kind of see what was going on there. Now we'll get into actually cutting the shape on the ends of those, and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. Be right back with you. All right, guys, I'm back. So, first things first, just to let everybody know, the reason I'm filming this myself has nothing to do with Dad, other than the fact that it is Sunday, July 3rd, and it's kind of a long weekend, and Dad's got some other stuff going on, but he's also 82 years old, so I want him to have the day off, and I'm doing this because I've been wanting to try this anyway. But anyway, Dad is fine, in case anybody has any illusions that something's wrong with my father. No, he's doing fine. He's in there relaxing. So anyway, and I'm out here having fun playing. So here's what we've got, guys. I am actually going to cut this shape with my router. You guys may have seen this before, but I'm not really sure. I can't remember, honestly. But this is 1.5 inches thick, or thereabouts, 1.5 inches thick, and I'm going to cut the whole thing shape on the ends. Again, the edges are saw cut, so I don't have to worry about that. I'm just cutting this shape on the ends with my spiral bit, just our standard spiral bit. This actually is a really old spiral bit, but it cuts just fine. I tested it earlier. So I'm going to cut a series of passes through this 1.5 inch. I'm not going to cut it all in one pass because the flute on this bit is only 3/4 inch. So I'm just going to go through the process. It should take a few minutes here, and I'm just going to go through it. If I want to stop and say something, I will. Shut the router off because it's going to be loud. So here we go. Let's see how this works. So hopefully I got my camera in the right position where I can get almost all of this on film for you guys. So here we go. Okay, so I have that basic. Now I can take this vinyl off because I just don't need it there now. This vinyl on the outside. I'll still leave the vinyl on the inside because I need that for my stripes I'm gonna do. So now, I don't know, I've gone down probably 1/4 of an inch, maybe a little bit more. Now I'm just gonna eyeball this thing and I'm gonna take another pass at it and just try and follow that groove, which it should follow the groove just normally. Here we go. So now I'm about halfway through. I don't know, maybe not quite halfway through. But again, I'm just setting this deep. And now I've got the cutter. One thing I did want to mention, let me see if I can get the angle on here. I've got the cutter not all the way in, but it's in there probably at least about an inch. But I don't want to try and take too much all in one shot. I've got plenty of time. I got plenty of cutter length. Just take your time going through. This is soft wood, but if it was hardwood, I'd probably take smaller passes, not quite as much at a time. So we're almost to the end of our flute. So I'm going to take another pass here. Just kind of eyeballing it. Now I do also, I have that rubber pad underneath here, and it's back here so that it won't, let me make sure. Yeah, it's actually back about here, so I won't hit it when I come through, when I cut all the way through. So I really would rather not cut into my table. Once I get to the point where it's going to be down, cutting all the way through, I'll make sure, and and you'll see that, I'll make sure that I don't cut into the table. Theoretically, hopefully, if I do it right. Here we go. Now I'm kind of taking my time on this, guys, and understand, unless you're really used to using a router, you might not want to use this method. I like it because I've had one of these in my hand for a long time. So this is the way I like to cut shapes, even freehand shapes. So you can see now I'm way, well, maybe you can, maybe you can't. Let me see if I can turn this. I'm way past the flute on this. So what's happening is at the top of this groove, this is burning. The shaft is burning just slightly. I got a little bit of a burn that I can smell, and there's a little bit of a burn down in that groove, but it's not hurting anything. And what's cutting is down at the tip. So looks like we've got about 3/8 of an inch to go yet. Let me see. Yep. Let's take another pass. probably 2 or 3 more passes. Okay, according to what I see here, I've got about another 1/8 of an inch, 3/16 to an 1/8 of an inch. I think probably more like an 1/8 of an inch. So I've got a couple different options here, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and take the last pass and cut this thing through. Now the thing to remember too, guys, is that when you're using a bit, and look how far that thing is sticking out of that router. I'm trying to get it. It's tough for me to kind of see how it looks, but that's a long way sticking out of that router. Extremely dangerous if you're not super careful. So, and the other thing is I really tighten this up tight because the deflection, and you can hear the vibration and the deflection in that cutter. If you don't have it super tight, that cutter could slip out of there, and so you want to make sure it's absolutely as tight as you can get it inside of that router. All right, so now what I'm going to do, and I don't know if this is really going to show up on camera, but I'm going to look and see and make absolutely sure, excuse me, absolutely sure that I'm just to the bottom of that board, and I am. I'm just through, just a few thousandths. So this should be the last cut, and that piece should just drop off of there. Hopefully. There it is. Little whale tail looking thing going there. That's kind of cool. I never noticed that before. Kind of a whale tail. Anyway, so I'm not sure. Let me see if I can kind of tip this thing up so you guys can see. You know, you can see here at the top of the cut, you've got a little bit of burn. But again, I'm just roughing this out. I'll go ahead and probably take my belt sander, my orbital sander, and just kind of smooth this thing out. But all in all, it made a really nice cut there. You know, you've got a little differentiation there, but you would get that with a jigsaw or you know, a sawzall, or this thing would be. Again, you guys know I'm not a real big fan of a scroll saw, but you guys that like scroll saws and band saws and stuff, hey, that might be the way for you guys to go. For me, I like this. It's nice and comfortable for me, even though that bit is sticking out there like 1.5 miles. This just works well for me. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other end of this exactly like I've done here, but you guys have seen this portion, so I'm going to do the other end off camera. Then I'll come back and we'll kind of just trim that up and see if I can get that on camera and trim those edges up and kind of smooth that up. So I'll be back with you. Hey guys, one more thing I forgot to say. The router that I was just using on that operation, cutting that shape, don't, under no circumstances do I suggest using the DWP 611 for that. This is the big 618. That's why I say it's always good to have a bigger router around in case you want to do an operation like that. I would never attempt that with this unless I was making 20 different passes. But I just wouldn't use this light of a router. You know, I love this router. It's my favorite router of all time, but not for this particular operation. Heavier operations, you definitely want to use a bigger router. That's why I say, if you can only afford one router, you guys, get the bigger one. Whether it's this or a Craftsman or a Porter cable or a Skill or whatever it is, if you can only afford one router, you're better off with a bigger one, and then later on you can go to the smaller router. But a bigger one will do everything. I carved for decades with big routers like this, even really fine detail. It's just now that I found these little palm routers, I like them better. But I have that option. If you can only afford one router, get a bigger one, because it will do more for you rather than being limited because of limited power. Anyway, I just wanted to go over that. Wanted to make sure that you guys understood that I wasn't using the 611 for that operation there. So, be right back. All right, guys, we are back. So I'm gonna attempt to kind of get an angle that you guys can see how I do this, and this is similar to some stuff I've done earlier on other videos where I was rounding the corners and stuff with my belt sander. So what I'm gonna do is this little shape that we've got's got a little contour, a little rounding, and I've roughed it out with my router. Now I'm gonna go back and kind of dress it up a little bit with my sander. First thing I'm gonna do with my sander is I'm going to clean this belt off with the belt cleaner. Just make sure I start with a nice fresh belt there. So hopefully I'll be able to get all this in frame there. So just follow with me and bear with me. Hopefully this will all show up. That's not too bad. I think I'll do that a little bit more. The thing about doing it with a belt sander like this, you guys got to try and keep it square to the edge of the board. Now I'll try this corner here. Not too bad. I want to touch that just a little bit more. And it actually feels pretty good. Get this one open. Alright, that actually looks pretty good. I may hand sand that a little bit more, but that's pretty darn smooth. It's feeling pretty good there. So hopefully this turns out, guys. But that's how now if I wanted to go back with my my little orbital sander, I could do that, and I may do that. But that's actually a pretty good shape right there. I can follow that radius with my fingers and feel that that's a pretty consistent shape there. So now I'll do the other end off camera, but you guys can see how I go about that. Oh, by the way, I clamp this down in 2 positions. I'm not sure whether you can see that on there. Let me see if I can swing this around. Oh, sorry for the challenges here, guys. I clamp it in. I've clamped it, let me see. Oh yeah, I've clamped it here, and then I've clamped it over on the other side as well. On both positions. You don't want that board swinging on you while you're trying to put pressure on it with that belt sander. So that was just, hopefully you can see that other clamp over there. I'm not sure you can, but maybe you can. There's another clamp over there. It's kind of hard for me to see the actual screen here. But anyway, guys, you get the, sorry about the jerkiness. You get the idea. Anyway, so we'll move on to the next step. See you in a minute. Okay, guys, we are back. So I am going to attempt again to try and keep this all in frame. I now have the shape done, and what I'm going to do now is see if I can get these, what I'm calling stripes, carved. So my overall intention is for this all to be carved, and then this is all going to be redwood with the inset letters of the logo inside. Something a little bit different, something I hadn't done before. I saw this pattern. Vicki was going through patterns. I said, find me something, and she's going through stuff. And when I saw this one, I thought, wow, that's different. I haven't seen anything quite like that before. So I'm going to attempt to carve as many of these stripes within frame as I can get. So we are using our standard 90-degree V-groove, what we call our background or our cleanup bit. It's just a 90-degree V-groove. And I am going to set the depth on it here, somewhere around 1/4 inch. And I am just going to carve each one of those stripes individually, hopefully, if it all goes well. So I'm going to start here, which I think is on frame, and kind of come around the corner over to this area somewhere. But I'm going to do this inside line first, and then I'll carve the stripes. Here we go. Well, that's kind of what I was thinking I wanted to do on that, guys. I don't know exactly how this is going to come out. Again, this is something a little bit different than what I've done before. I have kind of an idea in my head of what I think it's going to look like. Now, what I'm going to do for, just so you guys know, and you'll see this too, what I'm going to do for this heavy black line around the outside is not so much here. I kind of cut that off with the saw, but I'm just going to put a super deep bevel all the way around, and that will cap off the outside edge, I think, and give me that really dark black line around the edge. So that's kind of what my plan is. And then once I get that all done, then I'll go back and do my letters, my logo inside of that. I really am kind of interested to see how this thing turns out, you guys. It's again a little bit different, but I wanted to kind of do something different. So anyway, I'm going to turn the camera off now. I'm going to finish this thing up and then pull all the vinyl off and kind of see what it looks like. Then when we come back, I'll get the chamfer bit, the 45-degree chamfer bit, and just put a huge deep bevel all the way around. And you guys will see that with any luck at all in the next scene. So stay with me. I'll be right back if I can reach the camera here. Okay guys, we are back. I got all my vinyl off. I've got all my stripes cut. So now I'm going to do the edge real quick, and you guys hopefully will be seeing most of it. I'm going to do this whole end. I'm going to do this edge here that's on frame right now, and then I'll pull it back toward me and then do this upper edge. So here we go. And now the wind is starting to come up. So sorry if there's a little wind noise, guys. Here we go. I really like the way that deep bevel looks on there. Hopefully I can get in close for you guys and let you see what it looks like. I'm not sure the angle I'm at right now. I'm not sure how that looks, but let me grab the camera real quick off of the tripod and see if I can kind of get in there on it for you guys. I like the way that that deep bevel kind of gives these things a little point like that. I think that's going to look pretty cool, especially once it's all sprayed black and stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this thing off camera, and then when I come back on the next scene, I think we're going to try one more operation after this before I start the lettering, and I'll tell you about that in just a minute. Okay guys, so we have got the edge done all the way around. We got the last operation. This is one I just decided to do because I wanted a little bit fatter line around here. Let me see. This line here, over here all the way around this line. I want it a little bit fatter than what my standard bit can do. So I'm putting in a 1/2 inch. What is this, 1/2 inch or is that 3/8? Well, now I'm wondering. 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch diameter. It's 1/4 inch shank, but 1/2 inch diameter here. And I want a big fat line. I want that line to be bigger. So this is not one of our standard bits. It's just one I had in my toolbox. It cuts pretty well. It's an insert. It's not solid carbide. It's an insert, but it cuts really, really well. So it's a nice bit to have. I don't use it like hardly ever, but in this instance, I just want that line to be really dramatic. So I am going to go ahead and cut that line on camera right here at this end so you guys can see it. So here we go. Let's see. Yeah. I think that kind of gives you an idea. I think that line is just much more dramatic. Really set that off a little bit better. Hopefully, let me grab the camera off the tripod again and see if I can give you guys a little bit closer look at it. See how much wider that line is? I think that's gonna turn out looking a little bit better than that thin line. That's the difference between the two right there. I think that's gonna look a little bit better. Anyway, all right guys, so I'm gonna finish this up and then we'll move on to the lettering. Let me show you what I've decided to do. Okay, so when you first saw this sign, you saw that knot hole that I told you about, that all the letters were going to be inset, and I had to kind of refigure and calculate and put those letters over the top of that. Well, since then, after I finished this board, I decided I am going to make these letters outset. So that made it a little bit easier. So I had to I'm going to get up and move the camera around so you guys can see what I'm talking about. You know what? I'm just going to take it off the tripod. And hopefully this will work out. I got to flip my screen around. So this is the sign. And you can see right there where the U and the D are. I puttied that up so that will be in background. So I kind of thought when I was first making this, guys, that there would be that I wanted these letters inset because I wanted to show a lot of this redwood. Well, I didn't even conceive that at the time that this stuff here is all going to show up redwood. The letters are going to be redwood if I go outset, and I really want I want to spend more time on it and make it as spectacular as I possibly can. And you guys obviously now knowing who this is for. And if you haven't checked out these guys' channel, by the way, the Dude Perfect channel is really cool. These guys, I just saw one the other day. They get celebrities on. They had a a drone race with Jeff Goldblum and Liam Helmsworth the other day, or a while back, as a promotion for the new Independence Day channel, or a movie, excuse me, I'm trying to talk and think at the same time. I saw one the other day where they did trick shots with Venus Williams, all about tennis trick shots and stuff. Anyway, check out their channel. It's awesome. You probably have already seen it, but that's who this sign is for. So I've just decided to go outset letters with it because I want it as spectacular as I can possibly get. And hopefully they'll be impressed with it and give me a shout out. So I am going to shut the camera off now and come back on, and I'm going to go ahead and spray this, and then we will get to carving this on the next segment. So stay with me. Be right back. Bye. All right, guys. Well, change of plans. So here's the deal. I want this thing. I got to thinking about it, looking at it, and thinking, okay, how am I going to do the background? And I've decided that I'm gonna make them outset, but rather than just a cloud or a free-form shape, I'm gonna make it kind of uniform looking. So I've gone and I've drawn lines where I want my my background to be. So this around the DP logo is going to be like a box, and then it's just going to come down a little bit and then straight down the board, and then it's all going to be straight, and then this will be the end of the background down here. So everything inside that funny looking box will be black background. But what I'm going to do, rather than just drawing it with a pencil after I've sprayed it, I'm going to go ahead and mask it off so that when I spray it, my actual black will be the outline of the background that I want. So I'm going to go ahead and mask it off right now, shut the camera off, mask it off the rest of the way, and then come right back, and then we'll spray it and then take the masking off and see how it looks like. You'll see what I'm talking about. Be right back. All right, you guys. So I've got all my lines drawn, and I've masked off right to those lines. So this will really be the shape. This where the inside line of this masking tape will really be the shape of my background. I've gone letter by letter. Actually, that needs to change just slightly. I'm looking at their logo and trying to make sure everything lines up exactly the way it's supposed to be. That one was just tilted just slightly. So then I take it letter by letter by letter to make sure everything is square up and down. This is a fairly easy layout, and this is why I drive my wife nuts when we go places and I see pictures that aren't square on the wall and they're cockeyed and stuff, is because I've spent my life looking at things from a square perspective to make sure everything is exactly as it should be. So it all looks pretty good to me. If there's something that's out of square, I can't tell. So now we're just going to go ahead and spray that. I'm going to use the ink on this, guys, because this tends to, let me put it on camera, this tends to spray a little bit easier than the primer. The primer comes out really fast, and this piece right here will want to fly on me. I know it, because it's really, really fragile. So I'm gonna use the ink on this. I could use the primer, but I really don't want my pieces flying around if I can help it. And I feel like that long skinny one especially is going to want to fly on me. Wow, my nozzle is... Maybe I didn't shake this up quite good enough. Not spraying really well for me. Alright, that's straight up and down. So this is where, when I spray this, and you know, I do it different than Dad does. I try to get, if I know that something's going to try and fly on me, I want to get right over the top of it and just spray it with spurts. These, not so much. I'm not too worried about these. Now, of course, I say that, they'll probably fly on me. Oh, I gotta remember to go around my outline too. So far everything looks pretty good. It's really a warm day today, and this ink it's been out of the refrigerator now for a few minutes. I can already feel it drying on me and coming out more dry than what I really like. And you can see me kind of adjusting the nozzle. Sometimes if it doesn't spray, guys, and you turn that nozzle just slightly, it has to do with the way the tube is in the can, and that may, if you turn it slightly, it may start spraying for you. See, I got careless and that tea started to fly on me. See if I can get it back to where it goes. This can is already too warm. But I'm going to kind of baby it and see if I can make it work the rest of the way. Another few minutes and it would be too hot to even spray. It would come out really fast and it would be really powdery. Now there's see, it tried to fly on me. I don't know if you guys could even, you couldn't even see that. I'm sorry, guys. I had it more focused on the end, but this tea right here that I was spraying was flying on me. It was tending to do that. That's what I kept talking about. It was flying, and so I'd have to adjust it and put it back where it goes and then start spraying again. But anyway, it's pretty much done now. Let me clear this nozzle. Tip the camera back up, and I'm going to pull that tape. The ink is completely dry by now, especially on this end. I pull that tape, and that gives me in essence, my box. A little fuzzy right there. I didn't have the tape, kind of curled up on me a little bit, but I think it's going to work out just fine. Again, you know, you have to take into account this is a freehand routed sign. This isn't CNC. Yeah, even I can feel it. The texture of that ink was already getting powdery. See that powder? See how that powder comes off like that when I rub it? It was already starting getting powdery. It's so warm out here that that ink had only been out of the fridge for like 10 minutes, but it already started getting powdery on me. I could feel it as I was spraying it. See the way, but it doesn't matter. It's done now, and it won't be so powdery that it doesn't give me a decent line. I may go back with my square now and straighten up a couple of those lines that are a little bit blurry. Where'd my pencil go? Like this line right here. I might go back and just give me a pencil line to go by. But I pretty much know where the line is supposed to be. So, all right, you guys. Now I promise I'm going to draw lines on this. I'm going to get out on the where we were yesterday and get to carving this thing. So next scene for sure we'll be doing some routing. We'll see you in a minute.